guest last Shabbos told an amazing story. Apparently there was this young girl, American girl, just got out of college, and she joined up for the Peace Corps. And they sent her to Nicaragua. And they sent her to this place in Nicaragua where technology, I'm not sure they even knew what the word meant. It wasn't just there weren't any cell phones there. There were no satellite phones. There was nothing at all. And her mother came to meet her, to see how she was getting on. The mother comes into this shack, and they make a cup of tea. And there's a knock on the door. And into this room, into this shack, steps this priest. And the priest says, the priest, by the way, had never seen a Jew before and was fascinated by the daughter and been asking her lots of questions. And he said to the mother, "You're the mother of," I think her name was Jennifer. She said, "Yes." She said, "Well, usually parents are more religious than their children. I want to ask you some questions because your daughter told me something that I just can't be true. I read the Bible every day," said the priest. "And I know that in Jerusalem there is a temple, and there are sacrifices, and there are priests, and there's incense. And she tells me that it was destroyed." It can't be. I read the Bible every day. And the mother said, the first Beis Hamikdash, the first temple, was destroyed by the Babylonians. Some 70 years later, it was rebuilt with the permission of the Persians. Some 400 years later, the Romans destroyed it, and it's in ruins to this day. And this priest looked at this lady. He says, "It can't be. Tell me, you must have been to Jerusalem. You must have seen the sacrifices. You must have seen the priests in their vestments. You must have smelled the ketoret." And they looked at each other, and suddenly, after a while, the priest realized that this lady, the mother, was telling the truth, and the daughter was telling the truth. And he sunk down with his head in his hands, and he cried his eyes out. Cried and cried and cried and cried. I felt embarrassed when I heard this story. I felt embarrassed. Halavai. The Sefer Yetzirah, which is a tribute to Avram Avinu, the Sefer Yetzirah talks of words as stones, avanim, and sentences as houses, batim. Sentences, paragraphs, they're all batim. These batim, these avanim create batim, the stones create buildings, the buildings create cities, and the cities, if you think of all the letters in all the alphabets, in all the languages, of all the words that are possible to create, so many batim, so many cities, so many meanings, from the most elevated to the most debased, all constructed from avanim. There are some words, there are some thoughts which should never be uttered. The true combination of all those letters is the Torah. The Torah is the tzura of existence. If you count the number of days, including Shiva Asar B'Tammuz and Tisha B'Av, there are 22 days. And there are 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet. And those are the days when the stones are taken down out of the buildings and the stones sit on the ground, unable to express their true purpose. In Hebrew, churban, destruction, is the opposite of chibur, which is the same root, connection. The connection of all those words falls to pieces in the 3 weeks, and we're left with the avanim, with the words incapable, unable to express their true purpose. The ultimate building that ever existed and will, Bezrat Hashem, exist very soon is the Beis Hamikdash. Ki mitzion tetzei Torah. U'devar Hashem, the Devar Hashem, the Torah, the correct surah, the correct connection of all those words emerges from that building. And without that building, there's silence. The Torah can no longer speak. The Zohar Kodesh says, that Hashem looked into the Torah and created the world. If you like the world, the Torah is a blueprint which the master craftsman, so to speak, looked into and then created the world. But there's a difference, because after an architect has finished building his building, the blueprint ceases to have any practical function. It's an artifact after the fact, if you like. However, the Torah is not just a blueprint in that sense. The blueprint is a live blueprint. It's an active blueprint. Without the Torah's input into the world cannot exist. The Avos, Avram, Yitzhak, Yaakov, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, our sages tell us, were able to see all of the mitzvahs in the world. If you think about it, that's logical. If the world is no more than an expression of the Torah, then if you look into the Torah correctly, if you look into the world correctly, if you have eyes to see, what you'll see is a mitzvah of Natilas Yadayim, a mitzvah of Kibbud Av V'Eim. All of the mitzvahs are there because the world is no more than the blueprint. They looked correctly. They saw in the Bria, they saw in creation Torah. In Sefer Bereshis, right at the beginning, it says over and over again, Vayoma Elokim Yihi Or, Vayhi Or. And then it goes on to say, Vayar Elokim, and Vayar Elokim, Vayar Kitov. And he saw it was good. Over and over again, the same pattern. Vayoma, Vayar. Hashem speaks and he sees. In Eicha, which we read today, last night, the first chapter is in the order of the Hebrew alphabet. The first posuk, the first verse, begins with an aleph, the second verse with the base, the third with the gimel, etc., etc. In the second chapter, there's a difference. In the second chapter, it starts the same way, aleph, beis, gimel, until you get to samach. And then when it gets to samach, the next letter after samach, which should be ayin, it's not ayin, it's peh. And then only after the peh, there's an ayin. The Gemara says in Sanhedrin, Amar Rava, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Rava said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Bishmil ma hiktim peh la'ayin. Why did Yirmiyah, when he was writing Eicha, hiktim, proceed, why did he put before the posuk of the peh before the ayin? Bishvil the maraglim she'omru b'fihem, because of the maraglim that they said with their mouths, ma shelo ra'u b'eineihem, that which they didn't see with their eyes. What does it mean that they said with their mouths what they didn't see with their eyes? Why didn't it just say they were lying? Why that? What's the message there? What's so important that Jeremiah had to give us this clue? And it comes out, if you look in the Gemara, that that was the Ikka sin, more than Lashon Hara. And another thing, why is it that the sins of the spies are called Lashon Hara? L'choira, if they lied, that's Motzi Shem Ra. Motzi Shem Ra is when you speak slander, something which is defamatory and untrue. Lashon Hara is critical, is defamatory, but it's true. Why then don't we say that the essential sin of the spies was Motzi Shem Ra, not Lashon Hara? The answer is that the spies actually saw what they spoke. In modern day terms, maybe we'd say they wrote their own script and then they filmed it. They were makdim per la'ayin. And therefore it's true to say they spoke Lashon Hara, not Motzi Shem Ra. They actually believed that what they saw, they believed that They spoke, they created, and they saw it. It was a reality to them. In the Sefer Yetzirah, the 12 months of the Jewish year are paired with the 12 tribes of Israel and with the 12 basic powers of the human being. Tammuz, the month of Tammuz, is paired with Reuven, the tribe of Reuven. Reuven is the power of Re'iyah, it's the same word, sight. The next month, the month of Av, the month we're in now, is paired with Shimon. And Shimon, of course, is Shmiya, hearing. And hearing is the converse of speech. Speech only becomes meaningful when it's heard. You cannot have speech without hearing. That is the correct order of the creation. That's the order of the months, and that is the job of man. There's only one entity, only one being, who can speak and then see. And that's HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Vayomer Vayah. What the spies did was they created their own reality. They spoke, and then they saw. They were maktim per la'ayin. In 2016, last year, after much discussion, debate, and research, Oxford Dictionaries announced that the word of the year was post-truth. Post-truth. An adjective defined as relating or denoting to circumstances in which objective facts are less influential in shaping public opinion than appeals to emotion and personal belief. We live in an era of post-truth. This is the post-truth world. This is why politicians can get away with gross exaggerations on the television, and when they're called on it, it doesn't faze them. Nowadays, people actually don't really believe, even if the truth exists, it's not really very important, but what's more important is narrative. Narrative, interestingly, is a word taken from fiction. There's the Israeli narrative, there's the Palestinian narrative. Truth doesn't exist anymore, and if it does, it's not really important, because I have my narrative and you have your narrative. Maktim per la'ayin. The ayin sees the truth. The mouth is the only organ of the body which is capable of lying. We say midvar sheker tirchak. From a word of falsity, distance yourself. Sight is sight. When the mouth starts to work, the mouth is the only organ of the body which is capable of distortion, And that's what's happened in the world we live in. Maktim per la'ayin. I have my narrative, I have my script, you have your script, and then of course, all that really becomes important at that point is respect. If nothing is really true, then the ultimate yardstick becomes respect. You have to respect my narrative as much as I respect your narrative. Doesn't matter who's true anymore. In this post-truth world that we live in the absence of objective truth as far as the vast majority of people is concerned, respect becomes everything. That's why there's a baker in Colorado who've refused to make there's a baker in Colorado who refused to make a wedding cake for a relationship that the Torah describes as to'eva, an abomination. This man now risks being fined over $100,000 by the Supreme Court because nothing is true. So it's a matter of respect. You have to respect me, and if you don't respect me, the law, which is enshrining this idea of post-truth, will come down very heavily on you. The Gemara in Yuma Daf Kaf Amud Beis says, Ilmole kol hamone shel romi, nishma kol galgal chama. Were it not for the sound of the hordes of Rome. Nishma, there could be heard the kol, the sound of the Galgal Chama, the rotation of the sun. The sun makes a sound. The sun, in its performance of its duty, makes a sound. The sun in the world is the source, the major source of light. Almost everything the eye sees is because of the sun. It's the unswerving servant of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in its galgal. It rises in the same place, it sets in the same place. And the kol that it has, the voice of the sun, is the praise of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shemesh Yodea Mavo'o. The sun knows its destination. And opposed to this is the kol Hamoneromi, that vast cacophony of narratives that emerges in the post-Romi world, the post-truth world. A vast number of messages and sounds blocking the airways. It's full. If we could see all of the words and all the messages, all the tweets, it's full, blocked up with shtus, with lies, with sheker, with narratives. The world has gone over to a system, and it's not something sudden. Maybe what's sudden is that there's now a word for it. The most used, the most celebrated new word in the vocabulary, post-truth. Never have we been able to communicate so much and say so little. And what is said is post-truth. Let me give you a short list of new post-truth words. Poetic, these all mean lies, by the way. Poetic truth, parallel truth, nuanced truth, imaginative truth, virtual truth, alternative reality, strategic misrepresentations, creative enhancement, non-full disclosure, selective disclosure, augmented reality, nearly true, almost true, counterfactual statements, fact-based information. And the verb to lie now becomes to enrich the truth, to enhance the truth, to embroider the truth, to massage the truth, to tamper with the truth, to tell more than the truth, to bend the truth, to soften the truth. There's a few more. To shade the truth, to shave the truth, to stretch the truth, to stray away from the truth, to withhold the truth, to tell the truth improved, to present the truth in a favorable perspective, to make things clearer than the truth, and to be lenient with honesty. And of course, we all know that word that we've had around for a while now is to put a spin on the truth. No politician would think of being seen in public without his spin doctor having carefully doctored what he's about to say. And we the Jewish people say, Hashem Elokeichem Emes. Emes is a Hebrew word with the first letter of the alphabet, Aleph, the last letter of the alphabet, Taf, and the middle letter of the alphabet, Mem. Emes is Emes. It doesn't change from the beginning to the middle to the end. The imprimatur of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Emes. And that's the world we live in. That's the world of Makdim Peh La'ayin. That's the true Golos that we live in. If there's a truth, and I'm not really sure there is a truth, say people, it doesn't really matter because I have my narrative. Don't confuse me with the truth. The Medrash says, in the days of Mashiach, Hashem will take a rope. He'll stretch a rope from one end of the world to the other. And everyone will have to hold on. And he's going to shake it very hard. Things will happen that will shake our emunah to the core. The world will be full of narratives. And he's going to test our ability to use our ayin truthfully and speak the emet, to makdim the ayin to the peh as it should be. He's going to shake it very hard, and only those who hang on very hard will be able to withstand the tremendous confusion that we live in, and it's going to get worse. Many years ago, I said this medrash to my daughter about the rope, and she was a little girl at the time, and she said, "Daddy, where's the rope? Is it going to go through Azeh Abira? Daddy, we have to find the rope." And I said, "Yes, sweetheart. The rope is going to go through Azeh Abira, and it's going to go through Jerusalem, and it's going to go through Tel Aviv, and it's going to go through London and Paris and Toronto and New York and Los Angeles. And we're going to have to hang on." And she's, "Daddy, we have to find the rope." How right she was. We have to find the rope. Each one of us, we have to look inside. Deep in ourselves, we're ma'aminim b'nei ma'aminim. That is what a Jew is. This is a test of emunah, a test of the truth over narrative. We have to bring out, we have to reach down to our reserves of bitochen, because Hashem is going to shake that rope very hard, and it's going to be very difficult. It's not going to be enough to go to a good yeshiva. It's not going to be enough to go to a good seminar. It's not going to be enough to go to the best kollel in Yerushalayim. It's not going to be enough to daven 3 times a day, to give tzedakah. If your Yiddishkeit is skin deep, you're going to fall off. You'll fall off that rope. It has to be something deep, something pnimi. Forget all the chitzonius that we live in. We live in very comfortable worlds. This priest, in the middle of nowhere, cries his eyes out over the Churban Abayis. Can't believe it happened. We live in a very comfortable world. That world is going to get very uncomfortable very soon. Hashem Elokeichem emes. That's the avoda. The avoda of emes, of bitochen. May Hashem give us the strength to bring out of ourselves that resilience, that ma'aminim b'nei ma'aminim. This time next year, we'll be bringing our korbanot in that Bayit HaGadol, from which the Devar Hashem will speak. B'mheir of Yameinu Amen.